Pitch side for us. Nedum and Jermaine join us now. Nedum, was it more of an exciting game, maybe pitch side in real life, than it was here in the studio watching it?
Well, to be honest, I think the way you were in the studio is probably the way that, say, lots of fans were until the first goal happened. Yeah. And then there was a big spike in intensity from, say, the players on the pitch, from the United fans. They were singing louder. City fans were kind of quiet. There's a sense of anxiety because now you understand the sort of ramifications of losing a final to your rivals at Wembley. So that definitely raised up just that little bit. And for City to score the goal when they did, Bernardo Silva scoring that header, great bit of work by Oscar Bob. Yeah. I think that's when you realise that, at times we can say that, it doesn't matter, it's pre-season, it's whatever. But when the moment's there and the game's there, you have to take it seriously. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that really stood out to me was how good City were on the right-hand side with Oscar Bob, with Rico Lewis, throughout the whole game, but especially towards the back end, where everybody's starting to flag, get a little bit tired, a little bit worn out, a little bit broken down, and they kept on going. It looks like they've started the season a couple of months ago. Their levels are so far ahead of everybody else in terms of the fitness, in terms of the sharpness. And they created lots of opportunities. I think it was Oscar Bob a few times, ended up getting in behind the Manchester United fullbacks and creates all sorts of problems for them. The only problem was just the final ball wasn't quite there just yet, or the final run wasn't there quite yet. But look, we're talking about a team that has got an incredible goal scorer, somebody we know that knows where the back of the net is. It's just a matter of time before he hits the ground running, and I'm excited for when the season actually does kick off and they are fully fit. For sure, and when we were watching the game from the sideline, I'm sure it was the case in the studio, you can see there were certain things that were happening in the game which are very symptomatic of a game at the start of August. Yeah. Once the players get their feet under them, they clean things up. Some of the turnovers we saw today, we won't see. Some of the missed chances we see, we won't see. They'll be more clinical. But unfortunately, the timing of this game, it's like a week too soon. But ultimately, I think for the players, they all seem to be in good health as they walk away from this. Yep. And both sets of players can do better. And I think come next week, we'll see slightly different styles of football probably than we've seen from both teams today, because at times they suffered. Even speaking, with, I think it was Akanji after the game, he was saying he felt great, but then 75 minutes hit and he's holding on a little bit. It's hard work. And that's not the norm for someone when they're playing in September, October, November time. But overall, City are going to celebrate it. Obviously, the hoodoo's kind of broken now. Like, do they win the league if they win the Community Shield? I still think they're absolute favourites to go on and win the Premier League title alongside Arsenal. Okay. I still think Arsenal are going to be up there, causing all sorts of problems. However, look, as I mentioned before, once City are fully fit, they've got all of the key players back. Look, we saw a City team playing today without De Bruyne, without who else was there? Everyone, basically. Rodri, Grealish. There's loads of players that are really influential, really key players, but they're not here today, and they still managed to get the job done, albeit coming from behind, which I actually think is a much sweeter feeling, especially against your Lancashire rivals.
Nedum, Ian described it, didn't he, during the game, much like you of a night out. Haaland was isolated and alone. Is there any concern that we saw a little bit of that last season, that we could see that symptomatic once again this campaign?
No, I wouldn't necessarily overreact to it, to be honest. I think we've seen games where he has been like that. But I think the bigger concern is when the games are like that with a De Bruyne playing in there, with a Foden playing in there, with people playing in slots that we see all the time, yeah. Because some of the partnership that we've seen, say for example with De Bruyne for the last 2 seasons, we said it's as good as we have seen, but De Bruyne wasn't out there, so Haaland will make a run, and he doesn't quite have the same feel with an O'Reilly or with a McAtee. It's not said that they're not good players, but it's different. I think we saw City's attacking potential elevate when De Bruyne came back halfway through last season. So for me, I wouldn't overreact to it. I think Haaland knows himself that he can perform better, but I think so do other players within that side itself. And as the manager looks back at this game, I think the result is something he'll celebrate, coming back from a goal down, coming back from being behind in penalties as well. But certain things in terms of link-up, I don't think he's going to be sweating too much because he knows there's more to come.
Absolutely. Look, we talk about the games in pre-season. The link-up play was there. Going forward, Man City were really, really good, really exciting. I think they averaged about 3.5 goals per game over the course of pre-season. You look at today and you look at moving forwards, they're going to analyse the game. Obviously, they'll have a day or two off. They'll analyse the game, understand where they need to be better, more ruthless, more clinical. As you mentioned, some of the younger players as well, maybe not be involved when the season does actually kick off. So that's going to create opportunities for Fodens, for De Bruyne's, etc., to come in and do exactly as they do. They know each other's games inside out. So again, it's not something I'm worried about either.
For sure, and I think to sort of put ball on that standpoint, like, we look at it from the outside and we see all the sort of glaring issues and problems. Guardiola is one of the most experienced and most successful managers that are around today. He's been through this so many times, not least of all